college student can be tough, but not having a car that runs properly can be even tougher. Today I'm here to show you on how you can not only just improve your gas mileage, but you can improve your car's overall health. Gumout Multi-System Tune-Out. Now I'm not sponsored by them, but I've found pretty good success with this product, and today I want to show you exactly how it works, how you're able to apply it, and some of the benefits of it. So let's get started. So with Gumout Multi-System Tune-Up, this stuff actually works in a gas, ethanol, diesel, and oil. So you're able to use it for your motor oil, your gas tank, and also your vacuum lines. And I'm going to show you how to apply this procedure to all three parts of your vehicle. Some vacuum lines might be a little bit different, but you should be able to get the same result. Now, a lot of people have also heard of Seafoam, and Seafoam is a great product to use, but Gumout goes a little bit above and beyond, and it has advanced PEA. What PEA is an actual, basically a detergent or like Tide for your car. PEA is something that will help not only just clean the cylinders and clean the crankcase and clean out your combustion chambers and stuff like that, but this is also designed to help reduce emissions, help your overall performance, and help you get maybe an increase in gas mileage. The results do vary, but for my Corolla here, it's got 182,000 miles, and it's done wonders. I've used this stuff about every other oil change, and it's some of the things it lists on here that it does. It helps for smooth, rough idling, pinging, lubricates upper cylinders, and fights ethanol corrosion. Ethanol is probably one of the hardest and most toughest things on your car, and it's in our gasoline. It can also remove fuel deposits and oil residue. This isn't a cure-all kind of solution, especially if you have major motor or transmission problems. You want to have those addressed by a professional mechanic. But if you're just looking for something to maintain your vehicle, this is also something very good for right before you get an oil change. And my Corolla is due for an oil change here in about 100 miles. So what we're going to do is we're going to apply this to the oil, crankcase, vacuum lines, and our gas tank. And then that way, by the time that oil gets changed, this stuff here will eat away at any old sludge that might be in your crankcase and will come out a lot more dirtier in your oil change, but is more beneficial in the long run. So you don't want to use this stuff too often, but every once in a while it's a great time to, and we're going to show you how to do it today. Okay, so we're ready to start applying our Gumout Multi-System Tune-Up to the car here. Now, before we do the vacuum lines and start the process, we want to basically split this Gumout here to make sure that we're using the most accurate proportions possible. You don't want to put too much in your vacuum line or any other parts, but you just want to make sure that it's enough. So go ahead and you're going to take your lid off like so. You just put that right here for now. And what we're going to do, this comes for our motor oil a little bit later. What I'm going to do is you're going to want to pour about 1/3 of this can into here. Use a glass or like some kind of heavy-duty jar that you're not going to use anymore for anything else except auto stuff, because this stuff is pretty potent to where it could possibly eat away at a plastic cup or something very flimsy. So make sure that you're using something pretty strong and pretty durable. Now, you're just going to want to use about 1/3 of it here. Okay, so we're looking at about 1/3 of this can of this going into our vacuum system here. Now, a couple of things before you do this. Number one, it might be a little bit easier if you have 2 people doing this job with you. That way, as you suck this solvent through your vacuum lines, the car is naturally going to want to stumble, and it's going to naturally want to die because you have this fluid running through it. Don't be alarmed, this is normal. You just don't want to put too much of this in at one time. You want to make sure that you're sucking it really slowly through the jar here. That way the engine is able to feed it through the whole entire system without it choking or dying out. So what we're going to do is we're going to feed this until it's empty. And what we're going to do is we're going to use this vacuum line right here through your main vacuum line. You can, usually most cars of most models, this is a 4-cylinder, but this vacuum line is going to be our best bet, and it's not that hard to pull off and use when needed. Obviously, when we pull this off, it is going to create a vacuum leak, and the car is going to want to stumble because you have that air. If you do start dealing with stumbling, have a friend or buddy press on the gas, not hard, not aggressively, but about at between 1500 to 2000 RPMs, just to keep that motor alive so it can suck it through the system very slowly. And then from there, we'll go on to our next step. Okay. So make sure that you have your car running. And what you're going to want to do is slowly go ahead and remove your vacuum line. Like so. Now, a good trick here is to use your finger here just to keep the motor alive while it is off your vacuum sensor here. What you're going to do, make sure you don't spill it. You're just going to want to take this and suck it very slowly through the motor. Very slowly. And that RPM will get high as it processes it through. Just go very slowly. Your engine's going to want to run rough. It's completely normal. Okay, go ahead and go on through. Keep going. Give it a little bit of interval brakes here. If you need to help the motor out a little bit, give it a little bit of gas just to get it through. Nothing too aggressive, nothing too crazy. Go ahead and let it just process it through. All right. Notice how I'm pouring it very slowly, just rocking it back and forth and letting it process it through. If it gets stumbly, just go ahead and use your accelerator down here just to push it through a little bit. Okay. Okay, once we get near the end here, okay, on the end, go ahead and attach immediately and shut off the vehicle. Okay, so it drank most of it to all of it out of the system, which is great. And you're going to want to let this Gumout sit in the system for about 10 or 15 minutes. That way it can saturate good in your crankcase and all through your injector lines. And that way it can have time to work. So while we're waiting for it to process through and clean itself out, basically, you're going to want to add about another third. I tend to add a tiny bit lesser than a third just because it's motor oil. I don't want to you know, have it run too thin or not be as lubricated as it was before. But we're going to take just a little bit less than a third and put it in our crankcase now. Okay. And this is the whole reason that I brought this funnel here. That way you don't get it all over your engine. Go ahead here. These oil caps are always on harder because it's heat, but all right. And just like we did with the motor oil, you just want to make sure you pour this in slowly. Okay. Okay. All right. And just let that drip in there for a minute. And this is the main reason that Gumout asks you to warm up your motor before you start this procedure, because you want to make sure that that oil is nice, warm, and lubricated and ready to go for the car to actually run right, and so that it's a little bit more effective than it would be on a colder engine. So this is probably one of the main reasons you do that. So as soon as that's drip dried out, go ahead and make sure that's good to go. And this can be done on any gas or diesel motor, and it's also good for oil. I would not recommend driving over 150 miles with this stuff in your crankcase. You're going to want to only apply this to your motor oil if you're getting ready to get an oil change done, which this car is really soon. I'll be changing the oil. But if you don't want to have to go through the process of changing the oil, you can still add the Gumout to your vacuum lines as shown, and also to your gas tank. Speaking of your gas tank, let's go ahead and add that here. All right. Make sure you have a good funnel that won't spill it everywhere. And just add the rest of the bottle. This is about a third, a tiny bit less than a third of the bottle of Gumout into the system here. So just go ahead and put this in. And remember to have a pretty empty tank of gas. That way this stuff is pretty potent and it is going to be most effective. Another reason to do this as well is now that we're waiting for about 10 or 15 minutes to let it soak in, this eats up some of that time too. So, okay. All right, let's go ahead here and we'll wait about 10 minutes and we'll be right back. All right, so it's been about 10 or 15 minutes here and we're ready to fire up our car again. Now remember, this Gumout has been sitting in here for a little while now. And I'm gonna go ahead and start it. It's gonna be a little bit rough starting it since the fluid is still in the system. I'll show you just how to combat that here a little bit, and then we'll watch the show. Let's go ahead and start it. All right, so what you wanna do here is go ahead and give it a crank. Now, what I'm gonna do is go ahead and let that fuel pump prime for a minute and go ahead and attempt to start it. Okay, as you can see, it's a little bit rough here, so just give it a little bit of vibration here. You're gonna feel it. Now we're gonna go ahead and rev it and go. As you saw with that smoke, it basically burns off any carbon deposits or any fluid or any kind of other junk that might be in your system. From here, you should be able to go ahead and drive it. You want to drive it pretty aggressively to make sure it's out of the system. And from there, go ahead and get your oil change. So I hope you guys liked the video. And if you have any other questions, please post them in the comments down below. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.